At dinner with my family, he raised a toast and said, "Here's to finding someone better." Everyone laughed, thinking he was joking. I didn't. I just smiled, excused myself, and quietly canceled the loan application we co-signed the next morning. Now he's calling me nonstop. 3 years. That's how long we'd been together. Long enough for people to start asking about rings, wedding dates, and babies. And while we weren't perfect, I genuinely believed we were in it for the long haul. His name was Darren, and he was the kind of guy who could charm a room with that crooked smile and easy confidence. He wasn't exactly emotionally expressive, but I figured that was just his personality. I handled the feelings. He handled the plans. It worked until it didn't. This particular evening was supposed to be a milestone. Darren had finally agreed to come to a full family dinner. Not just my parents, he'd met them a dozen times, but the whole family. My aunts and uncles, cousins, my grandfather who rarely came to anything anymore. We were celebrating my mom's retirement, and I was quietly hoping this would be the kind of night where Darren would see how much he belonged here. That he'd feel like part of the family, officially. I even had this small hope he might make some kind of announcement, something sweet or meaningful. Yeah, I was naive. Dinner was at my parents' place, the one with the creaky stairs and the backyard that still had the old swing I used to play on. My mom cooked a massive meal, roast chicken, her garlic butter rolls, lemony green beans, and that strawberry trifle she makes when she's trying to show off. The wine flowed. Laughter echoed off the walls. Darren fit right in. Or so I thought. He told stories from his job, always with a twist of exaggeration, but funny enough to get a few chuckles. My younger cousin Jake even asked Darren for career advice, and Darren puffed up like he'd been knighted. I was watching him, sipping my wine, feeling that strange blend of affection and relief. Like maybe, finally, things were settling into place. After dessert, just as people were leaning back in their chairs, loosening belts and unbuttoning pants, Darren stood up. He raised his wine glass and tapped it gently with a fork. The room quieted instantly. All eyes on him. I smiled, thinking, here it comes. He's going to say something sweet. Maybe about my mom or about us. Here's to eventually finding someone better. Laughter. A few genuine, hearty laughs. My Uncle Steve practically choked on his red wine. My mom gave an awkward chuckle. Someone clapped. My grandfather, bless his 84-year-old soul, actually said, "That's the spirit." I just stared. I wish I could tell you I froze or cried or asked him what the hell he meant. But I didn't. I just smiled. A small, polite, almost gentle smile. I raised my glass, too, and said, "To better," and took a sip. But inside, I was already making a list. And Darren, baby, you were officially on your way out. The moment I stepped outside my parents' house that night, the cool air hit me like a wave of clarity. It wasn't just the temperature drop after hours in a kitchen filled with warmth and wine. It was something deeper, colder. Like I'd finally walked out of a fog I hadn't realized I was living in. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry in the driveway or peel out in a dramatic flurry of gravel. I walked calmly to my car, got in, and sat there. Just breathing. The keys were in my hand, but I didn't turn the engine on right away. I needed to replay it. Just once, to make sure I hadn't imagined it. But no, the words were still there, floating in my mind like smoke. Here's to eventually finding someone better. And the worst part? No one stopped him. No one asked if I was okay. They all thought it was a joke. I mean, how could someone say something like that seriously? That's the kind of thing you say in a rom-com to show you're too scared to be vulnerable. Not in real life. Not in front of your girlfriend's family. Not after 3 years of shared apartments, Sunday grocery runs, and Netflix passwords. I drove home on autopilot. No music. No podcasts. Just the dull hum of my tires on the road, and the sound of my own heartbeat, a low drum in my ears. Our apartment was dark when I got there. I walked into the quiet and flicked on the lights like I always did, dropping my keys in the bowl by the door, kicking off my shoes, avoiding the creaky floorboard near the hallway. Muscle memory. It's funny how your body can go through the motions of home while your heart knows it's already somewhere else. I sat on the couch for a long time, still in my dress, makeup smudged from the heat of the evening. I kept checking my phone, expecting a text. An apology. A follow-up joke. Something. But Darren wasn't the type. He'd always been proud of his ability to say it like it is. That was part of his whole persona. Blunt. Honest. Unfiltered. He thought it made him deep. Mysterious. Above the emotional chaos of ordinary people. I used to think it made him strong. Now I just saw it for what it was. Cowardice dressed up as confidence. By the time I went to bed, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to cry over someone who toasted to someone better. I wasn't going to beg, argue, or play the role of the wounded girlfriend. I was done writing love stories with men who didn't know how to speak gently. The next morning, I got up before the sun. No snooze button. No lingering under the covers. I made coffee, black, because I wanted to feel the bitterness in my mouth. I sat at our little kitchen table and opened my laptop. One of the many things Darren and I had done recently was apply for a personal loan. He had this idea for a startup, some app that was supposed to help contractors organize their bids. I didn't really understand it, but I believed in him. Believed in us. So we applied together. Joint credit. Joint signatures. Joint debt. Except nothing had been finalized yet. The approval email had come in 2 days ago, and all that was left was clicking the confirmation button to accept the terms. Instead, I opened the application. Clicked withdraw. Confirmed the cancellation. Just like that, it was gone. The money. The plan. The promise. And Darren didn't even know it yet. I closed the laptop and took a long sip of coffee. Bitterness, yes, but something else too. Satisfaction. Not because I wanted revenge. Not even because I wanted him to suffer. Because it felt like the first decision in a long time that was entirely mine. By noon, he had texted me. Hey, babe, are you mad? People were just joking around. Didn't mean to upset you. Wanna get lunch later? I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. Then a call. Then 3 more. By sunset, I had 10 missed calls and 2 voicemails. And I was just getting started. It didn't take long for Darren to realize something had shifted. By the second day, the missed calls hit double digits. He started off casual, hey, wanna talk? Then moved into semi-concerned, can we please just clear the air? And then dove headfirst into frantic territory. I don't understand why you're ignoring me. I said I was joking. Are you really going to blow everything up over a comment? A comment. He really thought it was just a comment. Like he hadn't stood up in front of my family, the people who'd watched me scrape through heartbreaks, who'd seen me rebuild my self-worth, and made me the punchline of some twisted bachelor fantasy. But sure, Darren. It was just a comment. On the 3rd day, he called my mom. Yeah, my mom. She called me while I was at work, whispering like she was trying not to wake a sleeping baby. Sweetheart, Darren just called. He sounded upset. I didn't say anything about the loan or the dinner, I just told him you needed space. I could hear the hesitation in her voice. She was trying to be neutral, but it wasn't easy. My mom liked Darren. A lot. He always showed up with flowers or a bottle of wine. He remembered her dog's name. He asked about her book club. What she didn't know, what none of them had seen, was the way he dismissed my ideas, the way he rolled his eyes whenever I got too passionate about something, the way he called it nagging when I reminded him of things we'd agreed on. I'd been carrying that weight quietly for months. His toast wasn't an isolated event. It was the summary of everything he hadn't said out loud until then. Still, I appreciated her keeping my boundaries intact. Thanks for not telling him anything, I said. Of course. You okay? I'm fine. She paused. You don't have to be fine. You just have to be honest. I wasn't ready to cry about it. Not yet. So I told her I had a meeting and hung up. That night, Darren upped his game. A text popped up around 9:14 p.m. Darren, did you cancel the loan? He had finally checked the account. Me, yes. Darren, why would you do that without talking to me first? Me, you made a toast to finding someone better. I took the hint. There was a long pause. I imagined him sitting there, jaw clenched, running a hand through his hair like he always did when he realized he couldn't control something. Darren, so that's it? You're just walking away. Me, you did. He didn't reply after that. For about 36 hours. Then came the grand gesture. A flower delivery. One of those expensive kinds with the box roses that smell like money and apologies. No card, just the name Darren printed on the shipping label. As if I wouldn't know who they were from. I left the box in the hallway of my apartment complex with a sticky note that read, not at this address anymore. Dramatic? Maybe. But I wasn't trying to be subtle anymore. The next morning, I got a call from our mutual friend, Marcus. He sounded both surprised and awkward. Yo, I just got off the phone with Darren. He said you ghosted him and canceled the business loan. I smiled. He left out the part where he insulted me in front of my entire family. Oh! A pause. Damn. Yeah, damn. Marcus didn't say much after that. But 2 hours later, I got a DM from his girlfriend, Lex. Just a simple message. Good for you. About time. The thing about men like Darren? They build entire personalities around seeming untouchable. But the second someone calls them on their crap, they crumble. And when they crumble, they either learn or they lash out. I was waiting to see which one he'd choose. So far? He was leaning hard into the ladder. By the end of the week, Darren had stopped pretending to be calm. The texts shifted tone. Less, please talk to me, and more, you owe me an explanation. The word "oh" made my stomach twist. He'd always had this way of framing things that made me feel guilty for standing up for myself. If I asked him to be more mindful with money, I was being controlling. If I asked him to help with chores, I was being demanding. It was always me overreacting. But now, the script was flipped. And he hated it. Saturday morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. He left one, voice tight, clipped. If we're done, you need to say it to my face. You don't just get to disappear. I didn't respond. I'd said enough. More than he ever deserved, to be honest. I went about my weekend like it was any other. Coffee with my friend Jess, who already knew everything. She didn't say, "I told you so," even though she could have. She just looked at me over her cappuccino and said, "You look lighter." And I did. I was sleeping better, eating better, laughing more. It was like Darren had been a weight I didn't realize I was carrying until I finally dropped it. But then came Sunday. And Sunday came with Darren on my doorstep. Hair disheveled. Hoodie half-zipped. That haunted look people get when they've run out of backup plans. I didn't open the door. Just stared at him through the peephole as he knocked again, then leaned in and said, "I know you're in there." I wasn't afraid, just tired. So I opened it, just a crack. "Why are you here?" He blinked like the question stunned him. "Because you won't talk to me. I need to know what's going on." "You toasted to finding someone better, Darren." I listened. It was a joke. To who? I asked. My mom? My cousin? Me? He rubbed his face. "God, you're blowing this out of proportion. We had a plan. We were building something." "No, I was building something. You were coasting." He looked hurt. Offended, even. "Wow. So you think I was just using you?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence did it for me. He took a breath. "I messed up. I know that. But walking away without talking about it? That's cold." I smiled. "So was your toast." And I shut the door. Behind it, I heard him sigh. Then footsteps. Then silence. He didn't knock again. And for the first time in a long time, neither did doubt. The following week was quiet. No more flowers. No more doorsteps. No grand declarations or sad boy speeches. Just a dull silence that felt more like a relief than an absence. For a moment, I wondered if Darren had finally accepted it. That maybe the weight of his own words had settled on his shoulders and he'd realized what he lost. But then I remembered who I was dealing with. Darren didn't disappear, he plotted. He waited. On Thursday, I got a call from my old college roommate, Lydia. We hadn't spoken in months, but she was still in touch with a lot of our mutuals, including, apparently, a guy Darren once played rec soccer with. "Hey, not to stir the pot," she said, "but Darren's out here telling people you dumped him over a misunderstanding. That it was an emotional overreaction to a joke." I wasn't surprised. I just laughed. "Of course he is." Lydia sighed. "You want me to say something?" "No," I said. "Let him talk. The people who know me won't buy it. And the ones who do? I don't need them." Still, the audacity stung. Because that's the thing about men like Darren. When they can't control the narrative directly, they rewrite it behind your back. Quietly, insidiously, with just enough charm and fake vulnerability to seem like they're the victim. Like they're the ones who were abandoned, not exposed. But I didn't need to chase down every rumor. I was too busy reclaiming my peace. I finally took down the vision board we made for his startup, the one that used to hang above our kitchen table. I deleted the shared folder full of pitch decks I'd helped him proofread. I threw out the mug he got from that tech conference where he forgot to include me in the hotel reservation and blamed me for not reminding him. I vacuumed. I lit candles. I put on music that made me feel like myself again. And somewhere between Fleetwood Mac and wiping down my counters, I started to smile for real. Not the forced, polite smiles I'd been handing out since the dinner. A real one. The kind that rises from your chest before your lips even move. That night, I posted a photo on Instagram. Just me in my apartment, cozy hoodie, wine glass in hand, captioned, "A better love story, mine." I didn't tag anyone. Didn't need to, but I know he saw it, because 3 hours later, my phone lit up with a message. "Darren, I hope someday you'll see that I wasn't the bad guy." I didn't answer. Instead, I muted the thread. Because if he still couldn't see what he'd done, that wasn't my problem to solve anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even bitter. I was done. By the time the weekend rolled around, the ripple effects of Darren's little pity campaign had begun to surface. Not in some dramatic, storming the gates kind of way, but in subtle shifts. Quiet conversations. Sideways glances in group chats. People checking in not to offer support, but to gather intel. You can always tell who's genuinely there for you and who's just there for the tea. I wasn't giving out refills. Instead, I poured my attention into myself. I went for long walks in the park with my earbuds in and the world muted. I signed up for a weekend pottery class I'd been eyeing for months. There was something really satisfying about sinking my hands into clay, pressing and shaping something from nothing. It was messy, imperfect, beautiful, exactly how I felt. On Sunday afternoon, I finally opened my email inbox, the one Darren and I had used for shared plans. Trips, projects, groceries. There were a few notifications still sitting there. Updates from our bank, a draft of the old loan paperwork, and a calendar reminder labeled, Review Investor Pitch Deck. I clicked into it, partly out of curiosity and partly because I wanted closure in the form of pixels and PDFs. What I saw made me pause. Darren had updated the pitch deck alone. My name had been removed entirely. The bio section now featured a solo headshot of him and some newly inflated claims about what he had achieved. There it was. The clean rewrite of history. I should have been furious. But all I felt was a cool, sharp clarity. He wasn't just rewriting the ending, he was trying to erase my part in the story entirely. Which would have stung, once. But not anymore. Because deep down, I knew something he still didn't. You can't build a future on a foundation of fiction. That evening, I met up with Vanessa, my oldest friend, my day one. We sat on her balcony wrapped in blankets, a bottle of wine between us, watching the city lights blink like stars. I told her everything. The dinner, the fallout, the door scene, the messages. She listened, didn't interrupt, just let me unravel all the threads until the silence settled. Then she said, "You didn't just dodge a bullet. You stepped out of the line of fire entirely." We clinked glasses. I laughed for real. It hit me then what freedom really felt like. Not just the absence of him, but the return of me. And as if the universe was listening, my phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. A voicemail. I stared at it for a second, knowing exactly who it was from. But I didn't listen. I just deleted it without hesitation. Because I'd heard enough. More than enough. Let him talk to his silence. I had better things to listen to, like the sound of my own peace. It's funny how endings don't always come with fireworks or final showdowns. Sometimes they arrive quietly. Like waking up one morning and realizing you didn't think about him at all the day before. That your first thought was about what to wear, what to eat, how to stretch your back, not what he might be saying or who he might be saying it to. 3 weeks had passed since the dinner. 3 weeks since Darren stood up in a room full of my people and toasted to finding someone better. 3 weeks since I excused myself with a smile and quietly flipped the script on him. In that time, I deleted our shared playlists, cleared his face out of my photo albums, returned the last hoodie I ever wanted to see stuffed in the back of my closet. I didn't drop it off or mail it. I left it in a donation bin with no note and no regrets. People always say closure is a conversation. But for me, closure was a choice. To stop letting him narrate a story I had outgrown. That final week, I ran into Leonard, one of Darren's friends. We'd always gotten along. He was one of the few in Darren's circle who never laughed at the cruel jokes, who gave me a knowing look at that dinner table, like he wanted to say something but didn't. He spotted me at the bookstore and waved. I was half tempted to pretend I didn't see him, but he jogged over before I could duck into the fiction aisle. "Hey," he said, a little breathless, holding a coffee in one hand and a guilty smile in the other. "I hope it's okay I say this, but you look good. Happier?" I smiled. "I am." He hesitated. "I just wanted to say, that night, the toast, that wasn't cool. I thought you handled it like a queen. Thanks." He shifted on his feet. "Darren's been a mess, if you're wondering." "I'm not." Another pause. "He told people you blew up the loan to get revenge. Said you were unstable." I raised an eyebrow. "Of course he did. But people aren't buying it anymore. He's unraveling. And you," he motioned to me, "to my coffee, my tote bag, my calm. You seem like you got out just in time." I did. We parted ways with a casual goodbye, no promises to keep in touch. He wasn't my friend. He was just a witness. A few days later, the final text came. "Darren, if you're really done, I just want to say I'm sorry." I didn't know how good I had it. I stared at the screen for a moment. Not out of temptation, but out of peace. Because this was it. The last word. And it was mine. So I typed, "Me, I hope you do find someone better. Someone who won't need to unlearn everything you put them through." And then, without hesitation, I blocked his number. Not out of anger. Not out of spite. But because the story was over. And I was already writing a better one.